So yesterday afternoon, Joe Biden was in Detroit, Michigan at an auto plant when one of the auto plant workers confronted Joe Biden regarding his stance on guns. Now, to be perfectly honest, this confrontation got pretty heated. There was some shouting, there was some finger pointing, and there was some shushing. So let's take a look at this up close and personal recording of this confrontation that happened. And then we're going to play a video of some reporters asking Joe Biden if he regrets that confrontation later on in the day.
These union workers that have been working countless hours under the Trump administration, I'd like you to explain how you plan to not only keep us working, but how you intend on getting the union vote when there is a large portion of the union workers that are gun enthusiasts, and you are actively trying to diminish our Second Amendment right and take away our guns.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
Now, shush. Shush. I support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free speech. And from the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my son's hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapon. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were in Beto, when you said you're going to take our guns,
I did not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
It's a viral video.
It's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out that are simply a lie.
Your voice, you said that you're taking the guns.
Well, he just clarified it. Wait. Take your AR-14s and what?
Okay, this is not okay.
Hold on.
All right.
Hey, let's
don't tell me
there's
a
lot of guys. wanting.
I'm not worried.
Hold on. So much.
Give me a break, man.
You're
Don't be such a
pushing
worried
up on me.
Hey, there's a lot of
Hey.
speak to Joe.
Look, here's the deal.
Go
Here's the deal. Are you able to own a machine gun?
Why own a machine gun?
I said, are you able to own one?
Machine guns are illegal.
That's right. So AR-15's illegal.
How is that a machine gun?
No, it's not.
Semi-automatic.
Yeah, do you need 100 rounds? Do you need 100 rounds?
In America from handguns and there are what you call assault rifles. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are dying by handguns?
Right temperament with voters that you don't agree with, sir?
Vice President, on the coronavirus, and both targeting you over this exchange this morning with the voter about guns. Any regrets about how you handled it?
Well, I'm surprised that Sanders is joining Trump. It's just surprising.
Was it appropriate to swear at an American, though, especially a union voter?
I honestly was not lying when I said that was heated. This was such a heated discussion. And one of the first things that I noticed about how heated this was is when one of the aides tried to calm Joe Biden down to avoid exactly what went down there. Joe Biden said, shush, very aggressively to her. Now, if this is what he does in public, he just shushes his aide like that in such a rude fashion, I can only imagine how terribly Joe Biden treats his aides and treats his staffs. It might even rise to Amy Klobuchar's level where he's throwing like hairbrushers and staplers at them, but who's to say? Not me, of course. So one of the things that I want to point out is that good on the auto worker for actually calling Joe Biden out on his aggressive pointing at him during their discussion. And that's something that Joe Biden likes to do whenever he's challenged by someone. He'll either point at you, he'll push into your chest, he'll, start touching you in some sort of weird way. Clearly, Joe Biden doesn't understand the meaning of personal space. But that's just what he does. And finally, someone called him out on this. And it takes a lot of courage to tell the former vice president of the United States and current Democratic presidential candidate frontrunner to not do that. Because he does that way too often. There's so many videos out there of Joe Biden pointing at people and touching people. And Joe Biden is the type of person that, when challenged, gets angry. Look at any video of protesters criticizing or confronting Joe Biden, and a switch flips in his head. He just gets angry. He just gets mad. He was, I wouldn't say he was yelling there, but he was speaking very loudly in an aggressive tone, pointing and shouting, cursing at him, using expletives, words that I would never use on YouTube. And the reaction from the media, crickets. It was crickets. If this was Bernie Sanders, if this was Donald Trump, This would have been a 24-hour news cycle where they would talk about this. They would say Bernie Sanders is sexist for shushing his female aide. They would have said Bernie Sanders is racist for shushing his aide that's a person of color. And they would have said Bernie Sanders is aggressive for shouting at one of the people that are confronting him. They would have said all of this about Bernie Sanders. And if it were Donald Trump, they would have said, wow, how unpresidential of him. Cursing at someone who's a potential voter for him. How unpresidential. Think of the children. How dare he use this foul language when our kids are listening to him and see him as a role model. But when it comes to Joe Biden, crickets. It's crickets. The mainstream media is biased. The mainstream media covers Joe Biden more positive than any other candidate out there. Because they're biased. The same people that are funding Joe Biden are the same people that are funding these news stations and actually own these news stations. So later on, Joe Biden got a chance to redeem himself, to at least have some cover to explain what he was doing there in that confrontation. And what a weird response that was. Granted, there were a lot of questions flying at Joe Biden there, but what an odd response. I can't believe, or I'm surprised that Sanders is joining Trump. What are you even talking about? What are you do you even know where you are? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you have any clue what you're saying right now? That came from left field, man. No one asked any sort of question about Sanders. And you're saying, I can't believe Sanders is joining Trump? What are you saying, dude? Now, I want to give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt there. There are a lot of questions flying at him, but what are you talking about? This is the guy that's going to take on Trump? This is the guy that loses his cool when a person without any authority, without any power challenges Joe Biden. He gets aggressive at them, curses at them, yells at them, points at them, and is just incoherent when asked to clarify what was going on there. I gotta say that Joe Biden is not going to win against Donald Trump, even with the mainstream media that's fueling him. And I should just say that that confrontation that happened there was very unpresidential. That's not a term that I want to use. That's not a term that I use personally. That's the mainstream media's term to describe the candidates. But they're not going to refer to him at all in that way. And even with the mainstream media backing Joe Biden, he's going to lose against Donald Trump. That's just a fact. Joe Biden doesn't have the temperament or the mental capacity to take on Donald Trump. And that's not even saying much. That's a low bar right there. So this is more a poor reflection on Joe Biden's character and the mainstream media for not covering it than anything else. I think, you could have a whole host of thoughts about the person that was confronting him. But at the end of the day, you want to be President Joe Biden, the buck should stop at you. And you don't act that way to someone that is just an average citizen, a regular citizen. So we'll see how that plays out. I doubt that the mainstream media will talk about that at all. But you know who is going to talk about it? Independent progressive media. So subscribe to join the political revolution against the mainstream media. You're not going to hear them talk about this on MSNBC. You're not going to hear them talk about this on CNN. Only on independent media will you find this type of coverage. So subscribe to join the political revolution. Leave a comment about your thoughts on this heated exchange. Follow me on Twitter at PathForwardYT, and we'll see you next time.